Alright, let's dive into something that's been on my mind lately. The Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ebola? Again. But here's the thing. This isn't just another outbreak. This is the second largest Ebola outbreak ever recorded globally. And it's happening right now in the DRC. What makes this really interesting is that it's caused by the Bundibugyo ebolavirus, a strain that's less talked about compared to the more infamous Zaire ebolavirus. Personally, I think this outbreak is a wake-up call for how we handle infectious diseases in regions with complex social and political landscapes. The numbers are staggering. Over 4,000 confirmed cases and nearly 1,850 deaths. But here's where it gets even more concerning. Officials believe these numbers might be underreported. Jean Cassia from the Africa CDC pointed out that the real figures could be higher, which raises a deeper question. Are we even fully aware of the scale of this crisis? What many people don't realize is that Ituri, the epicenter of the outbreak, accounts for over 86% of the cases. This isn't just a health crisis. It's a regional emergency that's testing the limits of our global response systems. Now let's talk about the response or the lack thereof. Cassia highlighted that the main issue isn't funding but community mobilization. In my opinion, this is where things get really complicated. Ebola outbreaks aren't just about medical interventions. They're deeply intertwined with local cultures, beliefs, and trust in authorities. For instance, the DRC has a history of conflict and instability, which makes it incredibly challenging to implement a unified response. What this really suggests is that we need to rethink how we engage with communities during outbreaks. It's not enough to just show up with vaccines and treatments. We need to build trust and involve local leaders, religious, traditional, women, and youth, in the process. Speaking of vaccines, here's a detail I find fascinating. There's currently no licensed vaccine specifically for the Bundibugyo ebolavirus. Instead, officials are using Ervebo, a vaccine designed for the Zaire strain, in Ituri and North Kivu. Now this is where things get intriguing. Field observations suggest that people vaccinated with Ervebo, who later contracted the Bundibugyo virus, had milder symptoms or survived. No deaths in the vaccinated group, that's huge. But it also raises questions about cross-protection, and whether we're inadvertently discovering new ways to combat Ebola. If you take a step back and think about it, this outbreak could be a turning point in how we develop and deploy vaccines for emerging diseases. What's also worth noting is the progress on new vaccines specifically targeting the Bundibugyo virus. Oxford University and Moderna are both in the early stages of clinical trials. But here's the catch. Even with these advancements, vaccination is just one piece of the puzzle. Surveillance, testing, case management, and community engagement are equally critical. From my perspective, this outbreak is a stark reminder that we can't rely on a single solution. We need a holistic approach that addresses both the medical and social dimensions of the crisis. So where does this leave us? Personally, I think this outbreak is a mirror reflecting our strengths and weaknesses in global health. It's a test of our ability to adapt, innovate, and collaborate across borders and cultures. One thing that immediately stands out is how quickly the outbreak has outpaced the response. This isn't just a failure of logistics. It's a failure of understanding the local context. If we want to prevent future outbreaks, we need to do better, not just in the DRC but everywhere. As I wrap this up, I'm left with a thought-provoking question. What does it take for us to truly prioritize global health equity? This outbreak isn't just about Ebola. It's about the systemic challenges that allow diseases to thrive in vulnerable regions. So here's my closing thought. Let's not just react to crises. Let's learn from them. Because the next outbreak isn't a matter of if, but when. And when it comes, will we be ready?